Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
On other news now, for a man famously wary of the media, the boss of Sports Direct and Newcastle United, Mike Ashley, proved something of a revelation when he was questioned by MPs today. Not that combative after all. They wanted to know about what goes on in his stores and more particularly his warehouse. He was prepared to admit some staff had in effect been paid below the minimum wage, more should be full-time, managers involved in sexual harassment were disgusting, and that the boom in the company's internet business meant it had become too big for him alone to manage. And it wasn't just what he said, but the way he said it. "I'm not house-trained," was his own verdict.
Sports Direct has made Mike Ashley a billionaire. He arrived wearing a tie in the colours of Newcastle United, the football club he owns.
Have you created a culture of fear with Sports Direct?
Definitely not.
Are you underpaying workers?
The unions say his wealth is built on exploitation. Today, in front of MPs, Mike Ashley admitted Sports Direct had broken the law.
Do you accept that the company was effectively paying workers below the minimum wage?
On that specific point, for that specific bit of time, yes.
And you've now addressed that?
I hope so.
Jackets and vests, guys.
This inquiry was triggered by an undercover investigation into working conditions at Sports Direct's warehouse in Shirebrook. Ashley admits staff weren't paid for the time spent queuing for airport-style security searches as they clocked on and off, and that staff were fined 15 minutes pay for every minute they were late.
I don't know when that started. It definitely wasn't a policy that I put in because I actually don't believe it's fair. If you ask me, I don't believe it's fair.
Thank you.
I mean, if one of my kids went to work somewhere and they were 2 minutes late, they got fined 15 minutes pay, I wouldn't be very impressed by that. I think that's unreasonable.
Mike Ashley invited in the cameras earlier this year in an attempt at transparency, but the Unite union talks of a culture of fear where the ill feel compelled to work. It alleges 4 pregnant women were rushed from the warehouse to hospital, while 1 gave birth in the toilets. MPs wanted to know if it was true that some temporary staff had been offered permanent contracts in return for sexual favours.
You sit there and say those things to me. Honestly, they're repugnant, they're disgusting. What do you want me to say? Would you like it if you were me?
Well, the point is it's not happening in Sainsbury's.
But how do you know
it's happening in Sports Direct?
Are you certain it's not happening in Sainsbury's?
The Shirebrook warehouse supplies Sports Direct's 420 high street stores, where Mike Ashley says 80% of staff are employed on 0-hour contracts. That is to say, they're not guaranteed any hours a week. Now, Ashley said he wants to offer more full-time positions, but he wouldn't say how many.
Would you describe yourself as a kind person?
I would like to think I'm kind to the right people. I would like to think I'm kind to the genuine people. And that's not some waffly stuff. No, I don't think I'm Santa Claus. Honestly, I don't.
Mike Ashley left promising to try to resolve problems and admitting that the company he started 34 years ago has become too big. The man at the top has lost sight of what was happening on the warehouse floor. Joel Hills, News at 10.
Mr. Ashley's performance did seem to reassure investors. Just watch the share price. When his business was getting a pacing from the union, it fell. But in the hour and a half Mr. Ashley was answering questions this afternoon, it started rising again. It closed up 1.5%.
It was the confrontation he'd originally tried to avoid. But today, Mike Ashley, the founder of Sports Direct, faced MPs and admitted there were what he called issues at his retail empire. It followed accusations by one union that there was a culture of fear at the company's warehouse in Derbyshire. And as our business correspondent Emma Simpson reports, Mr. Ashley accepted that there were times when staff were paid less than the minimum wage.
It's a journey he didn't want to make. Mike Ashley, one of Britain's richest men, the founder of Britain's biggest sports retailer.
Have you created a culture of fear with Sports Direct?
Definitely not.
After months of resisting, he's finally on his way to face MPs. And to begin with, he didn't have much to say.
But if I may start with the review that you announced 6 months ago. What's the current status of the review?
Work in progress.
When will it be completed?
Never.
But he soon acknowledged some work practices needed changing.
If you were a minute late, you got docked 15 minutes pay. You ask me what I think it's unacceptable.
He was also asked about long security checks at the end of a shift, during which workers weren't paid.
I'm a little shocked at, for example, stuff such as the bottlenecks at security, to put it mildly. I don't think that is even slightly acceptable.
Do you accept that the company was effectively paying workers below the minimum wage?
On that specific point, for that specific bit of time, yes.
It all happened here at Sports Direct's vast distribution centre in Derbyshire, manned round the clock by thousands of temporary agency workers, many from Eastern Europe. But it's alleged this was more of a workhouse than a warehouse. This BBC programme revealed a culture of fear. Stuart Young was a security guard here.
It feels like something out of Dickens, the way it's run, finding urine in bottles in the warehouse, because they've been told they can't go to the toilet unless it's their break time.
It was 6 strikes and you're out. Today the union claimed it led to people coming to work when they weren't well and countless ambulance call-outs to the site.
You'll see there are strokes in there. You'll see that there are 5 births or miscarriages or pregnancy-related issues in there, one of which was someone giving birth within a toilet, and the last one happened in November of 2015.
This was Mike Ashley on a recent visit to the site. Today he reckons such a high level of serious incidents was impossible here. And last year Sports Direct said its workers were free to use the toilet as needed. Mr Ashley told MPs he couldn't be everywhere all the time.
I'm not Father Christmas. I'm not sitting there, I'm going to make the world wonderful. You just have to try and get a balanced view and say, as an individual, would you tolerate that? Is that fair? And if I honestly believe it isn't, I change it.
Do you think your company has outgrown your ability to manage it?
Probably, a long time ago.
Make space.
That's quite an admission. He left pledging to make further changes if needed. He knows he's now got to get himself and his retail empire back on the right road. And the backdrop to all this, George, is that this is a business that grew incredibly fast. In Mike Ashley's own words, it went from an inflatable dinghy to an oil tanker overnight, and that clearly has been difficult to manage. He said he couldn't have done it without all these agency workers, but it's these workers, the union claims, that have paid a price for the cheap goods this business sells.
Emma, many thanks.